You're home alone. The TV is off. Your roommate is out. And somewhere around the 10-second mark, before you've even consciously noticed it, your hand is already moving toward your phone. Not because you needed to check anything, not because a notification came in, just because the silence got loud enough to reach for something, anything, to make it stop. You felt this in an elevator, in a waiting room, in a car with someone you just started dating, when the conversation runs out and neither of you says anything for 4 seconds that feel like 40. You felt it on a phone call, right after you both run out of things to say, but neither of you wants to be the one who hangs up first. You felt it in a meeting, in the half second after someone asks, "Any questions?" and nobody answers. And that half second somehow feels like it's being timed by everyone in the room at once. Something in you starts scrambling to fill the gap before the gap starts to mean something. So here's the real question. Why does silence, of all things, feel like pressure? It's not loud. It's not dangerous. It's nothing. And yet your body treats nothing like it's something you urgently need to solve. You probably think this is just modern boredom. Too much screen time. Too little patience. A generation that can't sit still for 4 seconds without a dopamine hit. That's the story most people tell themselves. It's mostly wrong. The discomfort you feel in silence isn't a personality flaw or a byproduct of smartphones. It's an ancient alarm system, and it's been running since long before anyone had anything to scroll through. To understand it, you have to go back to a version of the world where silence didn't just feel uncomfortable. It meant something was actively, seriously wrong. Picture a forest, birds calling, insects humming, small animals rustling through the underbrush. That constant low-level noise is, in a very real sense, a safety broadcast. It means the area is being used normally. Nothing has disturbed it. Whatever lives there is going about its business undisturbed by a predator. Now picture that same forest go dead silent. Every bird stops. Every insect stops. That sudden hush is one of the most reliable danger signals in the natural world, and animals across countless species have evolved to react to it instantly, because a sudden drop in ambient noise very often means something large and dangerous has just entered the area. Early humans lived inside that exact same signal system. A living, noisy landscape meant safety. A landscape that had just gone quiet meant a predator was close, and the birds and insects already knew it before you did. Reading that silence correctly and reacting to it fast was sometimes the difference between noticing a threat in time and not noticing it at all. Your ears never stopped being wired for that. A sudden absence of expected sound still triggers something old and urgent in your nervous system, even in a living room where the most dangerous thing nearby is a coffee table. But it's not only about predators. Silence carried a second, equally dangerous meaning, and this one was social. In a small hunter-gatherer band, you weren't just relying on sound to detect predators. You were constantly reading the social atmosphere of your own group through sound too. Conversation, laughter, the low background hum of people simply existing near each other. That noise meant you were still included, still safe within the group. Now imagine that noise stops. Not because danger arrived, but because the group has gone quiet around you specifically. In small, tightly bonded ancestral groups, sustained silence directed at one person was often an early sign of social exclusion, disapproval, or outright ostracism. And ostracism for most of human history wasn't an inconvenience. It was close to a death sentence. A human alone, cut off from the group's food, protection, and collective knowledge, did not survive long. So your brain learned to treat a very specific kind of silence, the sudden absence of social sound directed at you, as a potential warning sign of abandonment. That instinct didn't disappear just because modern social exclusion rarely means literal death anymore. It still fires. It's part of why an awkward silence in a conversation can feel almost physically uncomfortable, and part of why the silent treatment is such an effective, quietly brutal form of punishment even today. There's real neuroscience behind how aggressively your brain reacts to this. Your amygdala, the part of your brain most closely tied to threat detection, doesn't just respond to loud, sudden noises. It also responds to the unexpected absence of expected sound, treating a break in the normal auditory pattern as a potential red flag worth investigating immediately. This shows up in something researchers call the orienting response, the automatic, involuntary shift of attention that happens the instant a pattern of stimulation changes, whether that change is a sudden noise or a sudden absence of one. Your heart rate, your skin conductance, your attention, all of it shifts measurably in that instant, whether you consciously notice the silence or not. Your body is running a threat check before your conscious mind has even finished registering that anything happened. This is part of why sensory deprivation, silence combined with darkness and stillness, has been used for centuries as a genuinely effective psychological pressure technique, from solitary confinement to certain interrogation methods. Researchers studying extended isolation have documented real psychological distress in subjects deprived of both social contact and ambient sound for extended periods, sometimes including hallucinations and severe anxiety. Even something as seemingly mundane as an anechoic chamber, a room engineered to be almost completely silent, reliably produces disorientation and discomfort in people within minutes, because the brain simply isn't built to process the total absence of ambient sound as safe. Now here's where your modern life collides with all of that old wiring. You are almost never in genuine danger from silence anymore. No predator is using a quiet moment to close the distance on you. No hunter-gatherer band is signaling your exclusion through a pause in conversation. And yet, the alarm system built for both of those scenarios is still fully installed, still fully active, and still firing every single time a room goes quiet. That's why you reach for your phone the second a conversation lulls. That's why background noise, a podcast, a TV playing in another room, music while you work, feels less like entertainment and more like a kind of ambient safety signal you didn't know you needed. That's why total silence, even in a perfectly safe, perfectly comfortable room, can start to feel strangely loud after just a few seconds. It's worth noting this reflex isn't universal in strength. Some cultures actively train people to sit inside silence rather than escape it, from meditation traditions that treat prolonged quiet as a skill to be built, to certain conversational norms where a long pause is read as thoughtful rather than awkward. That variation doesn't mean the underlying alarm isn't there. It means some environments teach people, deliberately and over years, to override the reflex instead of obeying it. The wiring is shared. What differs is how hard a given culture works to talk you out of listening to it. Here's the twist worth sitting with. The exact same silence your brain treats as a threat is, according to a growing body of modern research, genuinely good for you. Studies on quiet time have found measurable benefits for stress hormone levels, memory consolidation, and a specific pattern of brain activity called the default mode network, the state your brain enters during quiet, unfocused rest, which appears to play an important role in processing memories and generating creative insight. Some research has even suggested that a few minutes of true silence can do more to lower physiological stress markers than listening to what most people would call relaxing music. So the thing your ancient alarm system is screaming at you to escape is, by most modern measures, exactly what your overstimulated brain actually needs. Not because silence became dangerous again, because your environment changed dramatically, and your nervous system simply never got the update. So why does silence feel so uncomfortable? Because for nearly the entire history of your species, silence meant one of two things. A predator had arrived, or your group had turned away from you. Reacting fast to either one wasn't anxiety, it was survival. That reflex kept enough of your ancestors alive long enough to make you possible. You inherited the alarm. You didn't inherit the danger that used to justify it. The next time a room goes quiet and your hand drifts toward your phone before you've even decided to move it, that's not weakness, and it's not a modern attention problem. That's a genuinely ancient piece of software, still faithfully doing its job in a world that mostly stopped needing it. You're not bad at sitting in silence, you're just very, very good at listening for danger that isn't there anymore.